Kenyan Agribusiness and Agroindustry Alliance Symposium with the theme Create Shared Value in Kenyan Agribusiness with special focus on building competitive value chains, agri-finance and impacting government policies in agribusiness was recently held in Kenya on the 20th and 21st March 2014 at Safari Park Hotel in Nairobi.
Today what we are doing, we are launching what we call an action platform. We have done some value chain analysis in various counties, and we know where the gaps are, we know the opportunities, and we want to lead our private sector to identify these opportunities for investment. We want to agree, how do we work with the counties, how do we implement, how do we invest, how do we agree what are the do's and the don'ts. Because of course agribusiness is a core of this country, is what we are all relying on.
The official opening of the symposium, which aims to create shared value with over 3 million farmers by 2030, was presided over by the Cabinet Secretary for the Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries, Honorable Felix Koskei.
I'm very excited to be here today to meet with you. In fact, the attendance here is across the value chain. The ministry has been playing its rightful role since independence, and that is why it is the largest contributor to the GDP. It contributes about 25%. It also is a sector that employs the majority of the people who are in employment, whether formal or informal, in this country. And therefore, the government has put all the focus in agriculture. We know as government that this is the sector that can turn around the economy of this country if proper management is applied, if enabling environment is created for the private sector to turn it around and we move forward. So as a ministry, we are ready to engage, we are open for discussion, and we expect likewise on your side as agribusiness investors, and this sector that you are in or you are planning to invest in is a sector that is so important, so critical to the government agenda in this country.
Kenya Agribusiness and Agroindustry Alliance was formed in 2012 with the core objective of facilitating collaboration and linkages between the various actors of the value chain, and also engaging the national and county governments, private sector and support organizations to ensure harmonized and effective growth of agriculture and agribusiness in Kenya.
We're bringing people, all the players in the agribusiness, agroindustry, starting from farmers, going to processors, to distribution, to manufacturers. Then we're bringing the people who are giving you seeds, fertilizers, scientific farming. We need to bring people who are players in every field. And what we're saying is, we've been working in the past in silos. Silos means we're working separately and everybody's been operating on their own. Here we're bringing in everyone together, including universities, professors, the new best practices in the world. We bring them here to Kenya and we create our own next practices for us to really build on this. Private sector can actually invest there. Government's role is a facilitator. They facilitate your investments, and therefore we just need to bring them together. There are bankers here, there are seed producers here, there are fertilizer people here, there are pesticide people here, there are the supermarkets are all here. We're bringing them all together and say fine, and there are farmers here. So we bring them all together and say fine, now let's remove the old way of doing things. There are plenty of people willing to do agribusiness today. It's just that we haven't linked the people up to markets. The markets are de-linked because it's easier to just import the product and use it. Whereas here locally we can start saying what is the production cycle. We can do a lot more, and therefore we're bringing them together and saying fine, now link people. If there are producers, link them to markets, link the markets to producers, and we can do a lot more there.
After the official statement by the Cabinet Secretary, where he addressed key issues and challenges faced in the various agricultural value chains, it was time for the participants in the symposium to engage in discussion and exchange ideas ranging from agri-finance, crop and livestock insurance, post-harvest handling, farm mechanization, farm inputs, information dissemination and access, technological innovations in agribusiness, bringing youths into agribusiness to commercialization of farming, amongst other issues.
Issues of seed is expensive. Mechanization in terms of farm equipment is a problem. Access to credit is a problem. And uptake of technology is a problem.
We are dealing with all players around the chain. And one of our greatest problems, and we have seen in the Kenyan dairy industry, also happening in other sectors of the economy, is something actually called dishonor at the kilns. We require very strong will and a very strong regulatory system to be able to manage all that, to make sure that there is order so that people can do business. We've got some projects, we've got some suggestions, and there is a way that we can be able to make the dairy industry productive. And incidentally, the Kenyan dairy industry is one of the strongest sectors, actually dairy sectors in Africa, and is growing.
The Kenya Flour Council is one farmer association that I believe has done pretty well, and we're quite willing to share our experiences and our woes in that work, to adopt the right practices, to work with our peers and our stakeholders, both in the civil society, both in the marketplace, in the media, to actually have put in place a sort of a system that works. And I would be delighted to share this experience with anyone who's interested in so doing. Thank you.
You know, people are looking at people coming out from outside Kenya to come and invest. And you know, we have a full basket of investors in Kenya. We as a country do have a lot of potential to harness the power of the private sector in order to inform our agenda as far as food security, agricultural productivity, and diversification of our exports are concerned. If you look at the enterprises that are performing well in this country, they are those that are driven by the private sector. Dairy, tea, you name it. I mean, they are those that are driven by the private sector. Horticulture, whether you are talking about floriculture or vegetables, they are those that are driven by the private sector. And therefore, we have an opportunity to come in and say, how about those that are not actively driven by the private sector? What can we do so that we create a platform and we start to discuss? So we come together and say, what can we as private sector be able to provide in order to make these opportunities to be achievable? And what can we expect from you, government, so that we can work together? These are the challenges and these are the issues that I think we need to consider.
I think micro-mechanization, smaller tractors going into smaller areas, the groups of youth have access to microfinance. We need to help the youth to build these models to help the farmers who own the land, etc., including drip irrigation, etc. I'd just like to make a note on that note of GMOs. I don't think that we should go GMO in this country. I think that we have many solutions to the problems we face. We must look at what we have in this country, what we've already developed and spent time developing. And I think that if we just look at solutions that continue to allow us to produce out of mined soils, and we're not looking at improving the fertility of our soils, we will then be left with nothing.
Participants got the chance to engage industry leaders through open questions and burning issues, the exact thing that KAAA aims at, which is to bring industry players on one platform to discuss and share.
The fact that agriculture is a devolved activity by the central government, it then makes it a focal point for the county government. If we then look at Vision 2030, you'll see that agriculture is mainstreamed as the first economic subsector to focus on as the country is perceived to have a competitive advantage in tapping into agriculture. My experience with agriculture, because as a bank we focus on agriculture, is that it doesn't require rocket science to transform and to unlock value. It requires collaboration in a very integrated approach, because agriculture is very complex. It requires all the players to come together. And so I'm very excited when I see all the players, whether it's from the irrigation perspective, whether it's from the input supply perspective, whether it's from the market perspective, whether it's from the processing perspective, or even from the banks or with the cabinet secretary here, from a policy perspective. All of us are in this room. And so it is just a simple question of saying, how do we do it together? And each of us play the role that they can play best.
Bank finance, I appreciate what Equity Bank has done. They've done a great job in getting financing out to farmers. If we look at the cost, though, of financing, and just to put a couple of numbers on the table, 15 years ago, the exchange rate between shillings and dollars was about 80. Today, it's 86. We've got a 7% difference over 15 years in the exchange rate. At the same time, the difference in cost between dollar financing and shilling financing is easily 12 to 15% per annum. That's the kind of weight we've got strapped around our necks in order to get projects financed in this country at the moment. We do need to find ways to bring this cost of financing down. E-money, Bitcoin, whatever it is, we've got to find those solutions. They're out there somewhere.
We actually want to invest in businesses, and we do invest in business. But these businesses are businesses that provide critical goods and services to those at the bottom of the pyramid. So, that is our mission.
So what I'm asking is, can we put on the hat of a farmer and appreciating Mr. Gaines' comments about his approach of what really does make the farmer successful from their point of view, and what support in a holistic way helps that. Can we do that as an agribusiness sector? Can we look at not just each one of us coming up with solutions that work for our industry product sector, but to look at if the farmer's business grows, if they see success for themselves, it's going to be good for all agribusiness sectors. So that's the question I want to throw back to the room, but specifically to try to answer from the panel about ways we could integrate our approaches.
Day one was a success, with participants having met leaders in agribusiness and financial institutions in Kenya and the private sector. Day two, it was time for serious business, with governors of the 47 counties expected to meet with the private sector to deliberate on key areas and investment opportunities in each of the counties. Cabinet Secretary of Ministry of Industrialization and Enterprise Development, Aidan Mohamed, opened the session highlighting areas of concern that needed attention.
Farming today in Kenya is seen as, or agriculture generally, is seen not as a business. And I think the more people look at it that way, the better. The one really important thing is the success of the value chain that was discussed for any of the agricultural line is as strong as the weakest link. So whilst we appreciate that the private sector must derive and get sufficient return, it's not long before farmers at the other end of the chain actually abandon what you're trying to do, if you don't make sure that sufficient amount of value is shared across the chain. I know agriculture as a function of national government has been devolved by the Constitution, and there are a number of issues that we have heard around complaints and that things are not working, additional costs and levies are being introduced, be they in agriculture or others. I just want to request and ask the county governments that as a country, whilst we have 47 counties, our competition is outside this country, not within the 47 counties. And therefore, we must make it easy for people to operate here. We are already, relatively speaking, a high-cost area to do business. We must make it easy for people to attract, for more investors to be attracted to various counties, and really make it just possible for people to do business.
Also present was the agricultural chairman in the Council of Governors, Honorable Derito Gashagwa, who applauded KAAA for bringing the government and the private sector players together to create sustainable agribusiness value chains.
I'm very happy this morning that we have all these players in agribusiness coming together so that we plan together, we do the regulations together, we do the rules together. I think this is the way to go, not just in agribusiness. This is the way to go into all activities here in Kenya as far as ventures and enterprises are concerned. Bringing in the stakeholders together at the beginning so that the rules are made with everybody participating. For instance, in Western Kenya, we want to cluster all the counties that are dealing with the cotton so that the rules and the regulations and the levies regarding that crop are uniform in that area. When we come to Central Kenya, we want to pull together the cluster of those counties that are dealing with coffee so that we regulate and create something uniformity. And we want to do this in consultation with the players, with the traders, with everybody, so that those regulations, those fees, those levies are agreeable across the board. So this is being done, and I want to assure you, as the man in charge of agriculture in the Governance Council, I will ensure, because we need to provide to support the private sector to do their business, and we need to create a situation that is predictable. So we do not want one county doing this, another one doing that. No. That one we are getting together, and we are going to put uniformity and synergy in it.
A key highlight of the symposium was the presentation by Anil Jain from India, who shared the success story that was the action platform to create shared value in agribusiness of India.
First time we brought together an idea that can we focus on a small farmer and still continue to do what we do beforehand, but with a different focus. So rather than letting the focus be our products, our own companies, what our own strategy, vision, action plan is, why not also focus on the farmer? So this contradictory idea that can I focus on the small farmer, see that he becomes prosperous, and in a process there is a 100% certainty that I will also become prosperous. And that's the idea, I think, what we have debated about, what we started in India, and in last 2 years we had great dividends. There are now companies working with each other, and fertilizer companies working with agrochemical companies, irrigation companies working with the value chain companies, getting together, creating vertical integrations so that large number of farmers actually can see measurable benefit in a short period of time. Because populations become more prosperous, they are going to eat more, spend more. Now, when you want to do both of these things, you need to create a sustainable balance of natural resources. You need to save water, you need to save energy, you need to use solar energy, you need to use bioenergy, you need to create energy out of agriculture waste for distributed power, which doesn't require then a lot of investment. Now, these are various things which is at a macro level planning. And when you can, and so the challenge before the policymaker as well as private sector is that how do you marry the macro level planning at the government and the natural resources to micro level, farm level efficiency, farm level quality, excellence, and everything which goes in between. So when you create this kind of complete cycle, that's what we call a virtuous, self-sustaining, holistic agri-cycle. And that's what as a company we have been practicing and preaching. And we are so satisfied today that so many millions of small farmers today, they started 1 acre or 2 acre. These farmers today do 1 acre, 5 hectares, 10 hectares. They are growing. They are becoming somewhat medium-sized farmer, I would say. All of them have started making far more money. They have started liking farming as a business.
Next were presentations from a number of counties on the available investment opportunities. Bomet County was the first to take the stand, followed by Kiambu County, Kisii County, Murang'a County, Nairobi County, and Nandi County, each highlighting their comparative advantages, challenges, and the strategy for public-private partnership opportunities available, with the emphasis on crucial incentives to be provided by respective county governments in order to facilitate private sector engagement in developing the value chains.
We want to use the new varieties so that productivity can go up. From this 1.2 that we talk about, 0.87 to 1.2, if we use new varieties which can produce almost 5 kilograms, the brown teas and the others, we can be able to increase productivity in Nyeri. Substantially, we also want to do other products that are tea related, like the tea biscuit, the tea fruit juices. And then these are the areas that the county itself would wish to attract investors.
We are now working on the quail agribusiness. As you know, this is a relatively easy poultry production that can come up and help the poor farmers in terms of nutrition and also as a business. We do have fish farming, and we are really gearing towards any investor, especially in value addition. As we are speaking, I have sent my farmers to Uganda because there they are much more advanced to go and learn the technologies on fish farming. We are endowed with many public and private universities in Kiambu, and we are really collaborating very closely in form of technology dissemination and also collaborating in their demonstrations within the Kiambu farms. And some of the most active, as mentioned there, is JQuat and CARI. We have promoted these public-private partnerships. We are also geared towards rehabilitating our agricultural training centers because we want to make them the hubs for the farmers to come and get more technologies and go and have a practice on this. So we have talked with a few of those, but this is not closed because there are still many other areas that we would want to have public-private partnerships, especially in irrigation. We have a vast area in Deia where we would really have irrigation through water pans and have a lot of production done there, especially on sunflower, floriculture, and those technologies which can really add or promote the livelihoods of our farmers.
We have a great potential for coffee in Nandi, and currently we have less than 500 hectares, but we have a potential of we can do up to 20,000 hectares, and we are really working on this because we have a very good agroecological zone that is suitable for coffee. The best coffee actually comes from that part of Nandi, and currently we are grouping the farmers together. We are really trying to improve on the productivity and also improve on the hectareage, and we are working in consultation with the Coffee Development Fund to see how to work on the same, and other partners are also welcome to invest in this area in coffee in Nandi. We also, storage and transportation, we have a challenge, but the county government is really working hard on this at this particular moment, and we are trying to improve our roads. We are also working on areas of water provision and generally improving the infrastructure, and we would also look for support from that area. In terms of value addition, as I said, Nandi, it is only tea that we are currently processing. Most of our other agricultural produce, we sell them in a raw form. In terms of marketing, that's a big area where we are facing a lot of challenge. There are not many formal marketing channels for most of our produce. And like our milk, we find that up to 75% is sold through informal channels.
We have over 93% of Kenya's fresh fruits and vegetables sold through informal channels with low quality and safety standards, because that is the challenge that we are facing right now. Then Nairobi represents 60% of organized retail in fruits and vegetables, mainly in the supermarket chains and not in the open market areas. The significant government initiatives that have taken place. The former local authority, the Nairobi City Council, there was a major initiative focused on wholesale and retail market standards and upgrading urban farming with links to rural Nairobi and surrounding towns. The opportunities to improve distribution and processing in Nairobi's fruits and vegetable markets. The main vision is to establish Nairobi as an efficient, effective hub for fresh and processed fruits and vegetables through upgrades in logistics, infrastructure, a more efficient marketplace, and value-added processing. The rationale of this was because there is an increased local demand Nairobi is expected to grow from 633,000 metric tons in 2007 to over 2 million metric tons in 2020.
We have proposed an agro-industrial park, and I can guarantee you that the problems we are facing in Nairobi in terms of the markets, congestion, they will be easily solved when we get this industrial park in place. We have already acquired the land, and we are now looking for partners who will come and we model that industrial park whereby we can do the processing of our products in that industrial park. So I can tell you, to get to Murang'a, where the industrial park will be, is only 30 kilometers. I got here in the morning, went to Murang'a, got a discussion with my governor, and then I was here at 9 in the morning. So that tells you how close you are between here and Nairobi. And we have never understood why crops have to be transported for long distances. For what use? Immediately you start transporting a crop, you start deteriorating its quality. And so this agro-industrial park will come in handy in solving some of the most pertinent problems that we are facing in our sector, marketing sector for our crops. And I can tell you, we also have an airstrip which we are putting money into, and it's called Kaberwa Airstrip, so you can easily airlift your products if you want to airlift them. We have quite several strategies that we've put in place. We have economics of scale because we have a huge population, over 1 million. And again, I want to tell you, the investors who have invested in Murang'a, they are reaping benefits because our labor costs are cheaper than Nairobi. And so again, you don't need to transport all your produce all the way from Murang'a to Nairobi only to come and face higher labor charges. And of course, we have organized our production systems through the ministry. We have developed a breeding center in Murang'a, and we have already invested heavily in milk cooling facilities. We are importing 35 of them, and I will encourage Brookside to come and we discuss, because these coolers are going to be owned by farmers. We are only playing a facilitative role, and we are happy that you're already a player in Murang'a. But there are two major players, Brookside and KCC. Those 35 coolers will guarantee quality of milk to you. And so come we discuss, but be ready to give us or give our farmers some good price, because we have invested in the cooling facilities.
At the end of the symposium, voting was done to determine the roles of the national governments, county governments, private sector and support organizations in the creation of sustainable agribusinesses. Some of the deliberations arrived at were the engagement of the private sector by the national government in major irrigation works, and engaging county governors and the private sector in building competitive strategies for value chain development. County governments will provide basic infrastructure, help mobilize external investment capital to encourage private investments in the counties, encourage local agro-entrepreneurs, and improve prices by encouraging the build-up of price transparency on commodity prices. The private sector corporations will develop agribusiness investments in rural counties, create shared value with a substantial number of small farmers by providing them with inputs, advice to build productivity, aggregating production, and establishing stable procurement arrangements. Support organizations will play a vital role of building competitive value chains through their strong organizational competence and their strong knowledge of agriculture and agribusiness management. In conclusion, the national and county governments will work together to encourage and promote the local and national private sector to build productivity. Investments in value-adding processes and marketing capacity in key commodity value chains, which counties can be competitive on, while focusing on long-term establishment of sustainable agribusinesses.
We've just come to a close of our symposium, and I think this was day 2. We had 2 days of discussions. Yesterday we had the private sector here, and we discussed amongst the private sector what are the value chains, that we need to look at. Today we had a big session with the county governors, and we had all the agricultural CECs from all the different counties. They were here. The counties actually presented. We were very pleasantly surprised today to see that counties are presenting what they have in terms of opportunities for people to invest in. And surprisingly, devolution has brought this out, because you never knew that Bomet or Busia or Nyamira had such investment opportunities available, and including, Kirinyaga, Kiambu, Muranga, Nyeri, all these other counties, Nakuru, they all presented what they have as opportunities and what are they looking at. What are the resources and what are they willing to look at? And I think there was a lot of consensus. That was the most important thing. The consensus was that the chair of the Agriculture Committee, the governor of Nyeri, actually committed and said, we as counties are not going to start becoming more expensive in charging taxes to various agriculture produce, so that the poor farmer that they talk about, not the poor farmer, but the farmer we talk about, and the smallholder is not going to have a problem in selling his goods across counties. And there's not going to be cesses or taxes which are charged across to them. That was interesting, because then we are sure that we're working towards one value chain right from farmer to the table of the consumer, through the supermarkets, through the processor and everything else.
Our 2 days symposium, it was really action-oriented. This we said from the beginning, that we were not coming here to speak. What we were coming here to do is to come up with a clear way forward, an action-packed way forward. We've had very good discussions with the representative of the counties, and we have seen clearly the areas of priorities in commodity value chains. And what we're going to do is to work hand in hand. We have agreed on partnerships, partnerships that are going to develop and take us to the next stage in this country. And what we mean is that we are looking for a competitive agriculture industry in this country. This has been wonderful. The 2 days have been great. Everybody was open, and everybody discussed openly their issues, and we ended up even voting what is it that the private sector should do and what should the counties concentrate on and the national government. And it is very clear what is the role of each one of us. The private sector have to take up the opportunities. They are going to invest, whereas the counties are going to facilitate these opportunities and ensure that they invest.